In this video, I'm going to show you guys my plan for building a stock market trading bot. And so basically, I'm just going to be going over the basic idea behind this and the mechanisms I'm going to use to execute this, and basically how far along I have gotten so far in this process. I'm pretty much in the early stages, but I just want to try to document this build as I go along and show you guys the resources I'm using to get this info and all that stuff. So I hope you guys do enjoy it. If you do, make sure to drop a like and subscribe, as that really helps out the channel and I appreciate it a lot. Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the channel. If you don't already know, my name is Frank Mularcik, and I was recently scrolling through YouTube a little bit and found this video by a guy named Part-Time Larry. I will show you guys his channel in a bit and leave a link below as well, but he has some great videos on basically this whole subject. This is basically what his channel is about, is building stock market bots and using APIs to execute trades. Previously he was doing it through Robinhood, and then he's branched out into some other brokerages that he's kind of been experimenting with, and he just has a ton of super great info. There's been some channels that have made videos about this subject before, but they haven't really explained how they did it. They just kind of showed the results. So I really appreciated that Larry has really gone in depth of how he's doing everything. So the basic premise behind this bot is that I'm going to use a service called Alpaca, which is basically a brokerage, but they also have a lot of APIs that you can use to execute trades and orders and get the stock price and all of that kind of thing. So I'm going to be using them when I actually go to execute my trades, but right now I'm just kind of figuring out the strategy. So I'm going to try to use some technical indicators to determine when to buy or sell a stock. And I'm also going to definitely do a lot of backtesting with historical data to see how my strategy works on that data. And then I'm also going to do some paper trading as well, because that's one of the features that Alpaca has that I really like, is you can do paper trading in real time and determine how your strategy works into the future as well before you actually use real money with it. The two basic indicators that I'm trying to use right now are the MACD indicator and the RSI. So I'm going to try to explain these briefly here. So this is just a stock price chart of Apple. And so this line here is the MACD indicator, or sorry, this is the RSI indicator. And basically it's a measure of a momentum. So if it's trending up, that means there's a lot of upward momentum, and then if it's trending down, there's a lot of downward momentum, generally speaking. So the general rule that is used is that when this MACD, when the RSI crosses above 70, which is indicated by this purple region here, the top of this purple region is 70. When it crosses above 70, that's considered when the stock could be overbought, and so that might be a good time to sell. And then if it crosses below 30, like maybe around here, it crossed below a tiny bit this bottom region, then that would be a good time to buy because it's potentially oversold. So in this case, you can see that this indicator actually works fairly well, because it shows in this region it's oversold at the end of August of 2020, and then it kind of crashed down a little bit. So that could have been a good indicator. And then the MACD is another one, and basically this blue line is the MACD of the stock, and then the yellow line here is called the signal line. And so basically when the MACD line is above the signal line and then crosses below the signal line, that indicates when it might be oversold and it's starting to have some downward momentum. And so an instance of that would be right here. And so both of this MACD and the RSI kind of indicate that in this general region would be a good time to sell, right? So that was a pretty good indication in that instance. And then when the MACD is below the signal line and then crosses above the signal line, that could indicate that it's a good time to buy, because we're starting to see some upward momentum. And the distance between the signal line and the MACD line, indicated by this histogram here, basically shows if the momentum is very strong or not very strong. So right around here, the MACD line crossed above the signal line, so that could be a good indication that that was a good time to buy. So these indicators obviously aren't going to be perfect, but If they were, then it would be easy, and everyone would be doing it. So this is the general strategy I'm going to try to use. I'm going to try to basically look at the MACD, and if it crosses below, then I'm going to look a few days in the future or a few days in the past. And this is when I'm backtesting with historical data, at least. Obviously, I won't be able to look in the future when I'm trading in real time. And I'm going to look a few days in the past to see if the RSI in that little time period was above 70 or below 30, and make the appropriate action there. And when I first kind of thought I might want to try to do something like this, probably a month or two ago, I was thinking the hardest part would be to figure out the trading strategy, which is still kind of true, but luckily there's this library for Python called the BTA-LIB, which basically is a library that calculates a bunch of technical indicators, and it does calculate the RSI and the MACD for you, basically. And you have to format your input data in a specific way and stuff like that, but it does a great job of doing those calculations and spitting them back out to you in a very simple manner. So this is the library I'm going to be using for that. So right now, this is my general code, and I'm going to try to walk through it a little bit and explain how it works, and then I will run it and show how it runs as well. So basically, what we're doing is, this is just a sample to backtest the data, basically. So the calculations of the RSI and the MACD will be the same in the live version, but most of this will be different because I'm going to be getting the stock price data from different sources and stuff like that, and I'll have to tweak the candle period of things I'm using, because right now I'm just using the 1-day candles, but I might try using some different time periods for the candles as well. So this is basically what I'm doing here, and so I have these two variables for the RSI thresholds, which are 30 and 70 respectively when it's oversold and then overbought. So if I wanted to, I could tweak those fairly easily. So right now I'm just going to show you guys how it works with 3 tickers, and then I will show you how I'm doing it with multiple like hundreds of tickers in the future. So I'm just putting these tickers in this list, and then I'm going to output the results of basically how my trading went into a new text file every time. So I'm creating a text file, and then part of the name is going to be the actual current date, so I get a new one each time. And then these variables here are just going to kind of keep track of my performance, because I'm going to have to manually have variables that keep track of buying and selling of stocks and how much that costs me and how much I'm gaining, so I can calculate percentage returns and stuff like that. So basically, this for loop is going to do all this code here for every single ticker in the holdings list. So basically, I'm using Yahoo Finance to get the historical data. And the reason I'm doing this is that I was initially using Alpaca, but you can only get up to 1,000 data points at once, which basically, if you're looking at data every day, that only goes back to 2017, about 4 years. And if you're looking at data more frequently than every day, then it is even less time than that. So I tried using Yahoo Finance to go back basically to the start of 2000. Now the drawback with that is they only have 1-day candles as the smallest candle size. So I could not try anything more frequent than that at this point. So I'm probably going to try to find some different data sources where I can get more data, so I can basically just try different strategies while I'm backtesting this. So that will be the next step. But basically, I'm just putting this Yahoo Finance data in a pandas data frame, and then I'm renaming the columns a little bit, because they have to have specific names for the RSI calculations and stuff like that. When I input these data frames, the BTA library needs specific formats, so I have to rename these columns. And then I'm just calculating the RSI here with this RSI function, and then I am basically creating 2 different data frames here that include just the data for the days that the RSI shows that it's potentially oversold and potentially overbought. And then I'm also going to get the index values of those data frames and put those in a list, because I need to be able to reference each value or each row in the data frame, and I'm using those indexes to do that. And then I'm using the MACD function to calculate the MACD, and then similarly I'm getting the index values of those MACDs. And then right here, these are some variables for specific calculations regarding the return of each symbol, and these that I created up here were for returns of all of the symbols combined, basically. And then I'm just doing these two for loops, or this for loop, which basically looks at every single row in the data frame that has the MACDs in it. So I'm basically in that data frame, there's a column that indicates the MACD value, and then there's a column that indicates the signal value. So we want to compare those. So I'm just putting those two into an array or a list. So I have the MACD value and the signal value for one day, and then I'm putting the MACD value and the signal value for the next day into that list as well. And then I'm checking if on the first day the MACD is less than the signal, and then on the second day the MACD is greater than the signal. That means that the MACD line crossed above the signal line, and that indicates that I might want to buy. And then I'm going to check if in a few days surrounding that time period, the RSI also indicates that it should be a buy. And if that is the case, then I will buy. So I'm basically saying if the MACD index of this date is in the list of indexes for where it could be oversold based on the RSI calculations, then I'm going to execute a buy. And then I just print out some data related to that buy, and then I am going to go into the case and check if the MACD is greater than the signal line on the first day, and then on the second day it's less than the signal line. That could indicate that it's time to sell. And then I'm also going to check if that MACD index is in the overbought index for the RSI, and then if that is the case, that basically indicates that both the RSI and MACD are indicating that we should sell, so I will sell. And then I just have these checks here. Basically, I need at least one share to be able to execute a sell, and I made it so that I can only own up to 10 shares of a company at a time. So if I own 10 shares, then I can't do any more buys. Basically because you're not going to have unlimited funds in the real world, so I just wanted to put a cap on it. But I don't think I ever really reached that cap. I think the most shares of something I ever owned when I ran this was 7. And then I'm going to basically output some data about my return for the individual stock. And then I'm going to, once that for loop is over, I'm going to output some data about my total return for all of the stocks that I calculated in this run of the script. So I hope all of that made sense. I'm sure I probably didn't explain it perfectly, but generally I think I did a good job of that. So now we're going to run this, and it's just going to calculate the returns of Apple, Microsoft, and Amazon using this strategy since the beginning of 2000. So I will run this, and it will start executing. And then basically it's saying for Apple, on the 20th of October, it bought a share, and then it will continue on. Now it's doing it for Microsoft and for Amazon. And also, one of the problems I had when I was using Alpaca data is that they didn't have the split adjusted price for Apple, and Yahoo Finance does have the split adjusted price. So basically it said my total return was 35.73% for all three of these together, which over a 20-year period is really not good at all. So I'm probably going to have to do some adjustments there. And then what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to do this on all of the symbols in QQQ. So QQQ is a ETF that tracks the NASDAQ 100. So I created this little script here. I downloaded the CSV file that's on the NASDAQ website, the QQQ website, and that has all the holdings of QQQ with some information. So I made this script here that basically gets those holdings and puts them into a list that we can iterate through. So it'll basically be in the same format as this list. So I just comment this out, and then from QQQ parse, I import the holdings variable, and then that holdings variable will be this value now. So now let's get rid of this so we have a fresh terminal, and then I'm going to run this, and basically it's going to go through all 100 companies in the NASDAQ 100. So that's going to take a little bit of time, so I'll come back to you guys when it's done. Alright, so it's all finished up, and this right here is the basically output file from the first time I ran it, when I just had Apple, Microsoft, and Amazon. So you can see each of those values, and I would say if I invested in Apple, Microsoft, and Amazon in 2000, I would have had far greater returns than 35%. So obviously I need to work on my strategy, and this is the output file when I ran it on all of the holdings in QQQ, and you can see my total return was 20% there. So definitely not very good. So I definitely need to figure something else out, change some things around with my strategy. But I just wanted to show you guys where I'm at, because obviously it's going to take some work to get to where I want to be from here. So I just wanted to put this out here as the foundation of where I'm at. So my plans for the future of this are to just keep working right now on my trading strategy and getting more detailed data, I think, because I want to try using some different sized time intervals when calculating these. Because basically for the calculations of RSI and MACD, they basically use somewhere between 15 and 30 most recent time intervals. So if you use the days, it uses the most recent 15 to 30 days, but if you use maybe like a 4-hour time interval, then it uses the most recent 4-hour interval. So that can affect your values as well. So I want to play around with that a little bit and see how it goes, and hopefully I can improve. I think the data source I'm going to try to use is an API called Polygon. So I've seen Larry talk about this a little bit, but I haven't investigated it super deeply, but I will probably do that in the future and try to figure this out a little bit more. So if you guys do have any tips for technical analysis, indicators, or trading strategies that I should try to implement that might make this work a little bit better, let me know. And maybe if you know anything about technical analysis, let me know maybe what intervals for these different indicators work best, because I really don't have any experience with this technical analysis and indicators type of thing. So any feedback you guys have or tips would be greatly appreciated. And if you do want to watch some other videos that I've made, I will leave some up here, and I will see you in the next one.